Hurts keeps, throws, batted up and picked off. Intercepted. And the Chargers win the ball game.
Wild game last night in L.A. 8 total turnovers in the game, 3 on one crazy play in the first half. You know, the Eagles just over 2 weeks ago had a 21-0 lead at halftime as an 8-2 football team playing in Dallas. They're now 8-5. They've lost 3 in a row, including that game. The good news for them is they have the Raiders this week, and they have Washington twice in their final 3 games. So a 2023 style tanking at the end of the year seems unlikely. We'll see. Dallas still in it in the NFC East, still trying to keep the string from 2004. No repeat champion in the NFC East, alive and well. Good morning, everybody. I got this from Tom. Tom wrote me and said, Kevin, you made a comment about the business of the team being a factor in hiring and firing decisions. I think you're onto something. Please elaborate. I think I know what Tom is referring to. I think it came up in the conversation with Ben at the end of yesterday's show. And I said, you know, this isn't the year that they start hiring, that they start firing people, that there was some equity gained and, you know, the ability to kind of withstand a bad season because of what happened last year. But the eventual hook might be a business influencer, meaning, I mean, this is what I think to be true. Look, last year was great. This year, not great. Last year was great, and it equaled an increase in overall interest in the team, hence increased revenue, but not overwhelming increased interest. You know, I don't know what they were expecting, and I can't tell you specifically what they got. I just know that it wasn't exactly the bounce that they hoped to get. So they needed this year to be a solid follow-up year, another playoff season, another playoff contention season, an exciting season. And it's been the opposite of that. It's been a dismal season that never gained any momentum, never had a shot of turning around, really. And I think that while Dan Quinn and Adam Peters absolutely survive and deserve to survive this season because there's a lot of context around this season, you know, they paid $6 billion for the team. They are making massive investments into the future with the city on a new stadium. They've already made massive investments into the existing stadium just to keep it up to standards so the people that do go to the games, whether they're rooting for the opponent or for the home team, are safe. And I'm just saying, next year, if there were to be another duplicate of 2025, there would be major problems for Peters and Quinn. I would expect that to be the case. Now, you know, we've seen Josh Harris and other places stick with coaches, stick with players, overpaid players, outrageously paid players. By the way, players that have been injured a lot. See Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers. But at some point, you know, and I would think it's a year from now, if we're sitting here a year from now at 3-10, and Jaden's gotten injured another 3 times, you know, they've got to start thinking about giving the business a new look and a jolt. So that's what I was referring to. Yeah, you don't want the business to drive football decisions, but it's easy to say when you didn't come up with the $6 billion for the team. And by the way, have to raise it through 20+ limited partners. So there is a fiduciary responsibility in all of this to all of those people. It's the largest ownership group in the NFL, with the exception, of course, of the Packers. The Packers are publicly held. John Keim's going to join us on the show at 12 noon. So after the show yesterday, listening to Dan Quinn talk about the Jaden Daniels injury, you know, he referenced that it wasn't serious. He didn't commit to Jaden playing on Sunday, but he essentially said that he was sore, that he wasn't injured. He was sore. And I got this from a guy that emails me all the time, Yale. I actually know Yale from way back in the day. Yale writes, at least Quinn didn't leave him in there this time. He learned from his mistake in the Seattle game. You protect the franchise. So I have a bit of a reversal on one of the thoughts I had in my recap of the game on Sunday. And the reversal is this. I think Jaden should have gone back into the game. If he wasn't hurt, and we heard from Quinn after the game saying he could have gone back into the game. It was my decision to keep him out of the game. And let me just say, I understand why Quinn proceeded with caution. You know, he blew it against Seattle. He admitted he blew it. This isn't even a debate. He admitted, remember, the next day that he should have taken Jaden out in a game in which they trailed 38-7 with 9 minutes to go. If he was going to leave him in there, it should have been to hand the ball off. That's it. Not to drop him back twice and then run an RPO. But on Sunday, while I understand Quinn and erring on the side of caution, if he wasn't hurt, you don't take him out for soreness. 17-0, 7 minutes left in the third quarter. I think it would have been better had he gone back into the game. I do. I just think that's my reversal from my game recap yesterday, from my game take yesterday. I said yesterday, I agreed with the decision. I think in that moment, just the risk that he might be hurt or that he may be re-injured, I was like, yeah, don't risk it at all. I'm fine with that decision, you know. But now kind of knowing that he really wasn't hurt, he was just sore. A lot of people play sore. And 17-0 in the third quarter is not analogous to 38-7 in the fourth quarter. Sunday was not analogous to the Seattle game. Jaden's a competitor. You know he wanted back in. You know he wanted back in after chasing Van Ginkel down and getting blown up. Put him back out there. So it wasn't enough football for him. He played 4 drives. That's it. He was out there for 4 possessions. They moved it into the red zone on 2 of them, including on his final play. Again, I understand Dan Quinn caution, err on the side of, oh my God, if I put him back in after that hit and him being in the blue tent, imagine if he were to get hurt again. I get that hesitation. But for me, in thinking about it after the show yesterday, with 22 to 23 minutes left on the game clock, unless he went into that blue tent and came out and the doctors said, no, or hey, I wouldn't do it. There's still a risk and we still, you know, he's not moving it. No, he was sore. And he definitely should play against the Giants on Sunday. Definitely. Quinn said yesterday that he was asked a question, can you grade Jaden for me this season? And he said, it's hard to grade Jaden's season because of the injuries and the personnel that's been around him when he's played. And he even implied that even on Sunday, when he had his guys back, it's the lack of, quote, banked reps, closed quote, with those guys. So it's still hard to evaluate. So for me, it's like, I heard that. It makes sense to me, but there was an opportunity for more banked reps. And you sat him. And there's going to be an opportunity for a lot more in banking reps over the final 4 weeks. Look, when we get to the season finale, I'll just say this right now. I'm fine if a lot of the key people, season finales are for, you know, teams that are out of it to sit valuable commodities, valuable pieces of their franchise. So the Philadelphia January game, we can have that conversation when we get there. The next 3 weeks, an opportunity to bank reps. Take them. Use them. Only sit him if he's actually hurt. Don't sit him if he's sore. Every one of his teammates is sore this time of year. He needs reps. And there's another reason that I think he needs all these reps. So let me just say this. I don't know how many times I can say it. I have zero concerns about Jaden Daniels, the player. I do have the same concern that some of you have. I do about him and being able to stay healthy long enough, year in and year out, to be what I think he is, and that is a great talent and I think a great quarterback. You know, on Sunday, Jaden had what I said was a C-minus game. You know, C to C-minus game. He had some good plays. He had some very good plays. He also had some very bad plays. By the way, I have an update to one of his plays that I want to talk about at some point on the show, because I kind of suggest that I wasn't sure what he should have done on that play. I think I'm sure now. But there's another issue with him right now. This is, projecting to a certain degree. But I think he's, right now a little bit shaky confidence-wise. And that's a big deal for somebody like him. Now, there were plays that looked like Jaden on Sunday, and there were plays that didn't look like him. But this is the first legitimate adversity he's faced in his career. And we know, I think most people know, there's a lot of context around why this adversity has set in. He's not playing, though, when he played the other day. And I think, when he came back and played in that Seattle game, I don't think he's playing with that, Superman confidence level that he had last year. I think I said on my podcast yesterday, he's playing a little bit tight, too. And somebody who I know pretty well, who's a high school coach, offensive coach, said there's no doubt that he's playing a little bit hesitantly. It's understandable given how little he's played this year, how little rhythm he's been able to get into, and things haven't gone all that well, not just with him, but with the entire team when he's been in there. So I think he needs these reps to bank more reps. Now, you can say, well, the guys that he's banking reps with, many of them won't even be here next year. Actually, Terry's going to be here because next year is the 1 year of his contract extension. It wasn't this year. This year was the existing part of his contract. Next year is the 1 year that he got in his contract extension that's guaranteed, that they have to pay him for, that they can't get out of. And you don't want to get out of it. I'm not suggesting that. Trust me. There's still a chance that Jalen Lane's going to be on this team next year. Now that Zach Ertz is out, and we wish him the best because he has been a pro since the day he got here, and that's a devastating injury. But now you're, forced to see more Ben Sinnott. Banking reps with Sinnott. Not a bad thing. I think he needs a bit of a confidence boost here at the end of this season. Waiting another 9 to 10 months to address that doesn't sound like the best use of time for me. That's what I would say. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. First of all, I had a bit of a reversal. I feel like if it was just sore, he should have gone back into the game on Sunday. I think he needs these reps. I think he needs to bounce back after what was the worst play. By the way, I think of the season for him. You don't check, if that's what happened, into a bubble screen in Andrew Van Ginkel's direction. That had to be a part of the game plan. I put it on Cliff, too, because that shouldn't have been the check. But Jaden I think it looked like he had some responsibility in this game at the line of scrimmage, for sure. There was a lot of communicating with offensive linemen, receivers, hand signals, running backs, etc., as there should be against a Brian Flores coach defense. You've got to have the ability to get out of what you think might be a bad play, especially on 4th and 3. But he made a bad decision because if it was a check, he checked into a worse play. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Do you think, like I do, that he should have gone back into the game? And I definitely think if he is just sore, he plays Sunday against the Giants. I don't understand the idea of putting him in bubble wrap and sitting him. If you put him in bubble wrap and sit him for the last 4 games, if that's your idea of smart, how are you going to feel before the opener next year? The big difference being those games will matter, and these games technically do not, okay? But I think you have an inherent fear in general that he's going to continue to get hurt. I need to see him play and not get hurt. I need to see him play and lead the team to a win, which he did 14 times last year. I think he needs that. 301-230-0980. I wanted to read this one quick thing from Francis. Francis writes, Kevin, you were too hard on Jaden yesterday. PFF graded him out as average, and your guy Nick Ackridge from Pro Football Focus said he was fine. Maybe rethink the grade you gave him. Francis is obviously a grade on the curve person. I gave him a C-. I think that is I gave him a C, C-. C is average. I think I don't know what PFF graded him. I haven't seen it, so it sounds like, Francis, you have seen it. And I don't know what Nick Ackridge said. I like Nick Ackridge, though, and I respect his opinion. I think he's got a sharp opinion. And yeah, I mean, like I said, there was some good, there was some bad, there were a couple of plays that were really good, and a couple of more that were really bad, which is why it's C-. But I also had a general issue with the plan they had for protection. I just didn't think it was adequate. I don't think that they were prepared enough against the Brian Flores pressure packages and the faux pressure packages. You know, he shows it every play almost. You got to be able to know what's going on, and you got to have a plan for it. And there were too many immediate pressures. And then giving up on the run game was insane. I still can't. A day and a half later, coming up on 2 days after the fact, I still cannot get over 8 yards a carry on the opening drive, and it's 2nd and goal at the 2, and you throw it 3 straight times. Like, that is a true, what are we doing here? And I like Cliff. And last week, I thought Cliff called a brilliant game against Denver. Brilliant. Everything was right. Quick game, running the ball, making sure that you could protect your quarterback, that he wasn't going to take a beating by in the face of the best pass rush in the NFL. And the other day, there were immediate pressures. There seemed to be no great plan to handle the pressures. And then, for God's sakes, you're running at 8 yards a carry, and it's 2nd and goal at the 2. Run the football into the end zone. And I understand he did not have, I don't think, on Sunday, the ability to use Jaden as a designed runner or even an option runner. I don't think he didn't run one zone read keeper. Now, the first play on 1st and goal at the 4 looked a little bit zone readish. I don't know if it was actually or if it was a straight give to Rodriguez. And there were no designed runs. Now, again, only 4 offensive opportunities, so maybe that was coming if they had more. But they didn't have more because the other team, after Debo dropped the ball in the back of the end zone, decided that a 19-play, 98-yard drive, 12 minutes and 1 second was something that, they should do against our defense. I don't think that they got much resistance. But Jesus, how do you throw it 3 times there? All right. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I had a change of heart from where I was yesterday, especially after hearing Quinn say it was more soreness than anything else. He's not committed to him yet for Sunday. If he's not injured, he better play. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't play him. He plays for me if he's sore. If he's injured, he doesn't play. If there's any risk of a re-injury of something, he doesn't play. But if he's sore, welcome to the NFL. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
And then for Jaden, what's the update on him? Do you expect him to practice, and is there a chance he will play Sunday?
Sure. So, he did kind of land directly, on his elbow. It's sore. The doctors evaluated him today. The good news for that, John, there's no long-term concerns, but we'll continue to monitor and, trying to take everything into account as the week goes. I don't have an update for you yet regarding playing. It's sore today, but the good news is no long-term, but I don't have an update as far as the game yet.
He's sore. He plays Sunday against the Giants, period. He's sore. He should have gone back into the game Sunday down 17-0 with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter against Minnesota to get the bad taste of his final 2 plays out of his mouth. Get him some banked reps. That's the thing for me that's changed since my game recap yesterday. I think Quinn said it after the game, he could have gone back in. So I get Quinn's stance in that position in that game because of what happened in the Seattle game. I get it. But you know what? He's got to play Sunday. And I just would have preferred to have seen him go back into the game against Minnesota on Sunday afternoon if he was just sore. By the way, I want you to consider Foley Mechanical for all of your HVAC system needs. We had some HVAC system needs about 6 months ago. We called Foley Mechanical. Dan Foley himself came out and dealt with us directly. He's an impressive guy. It's an impressive company. He owns 100% of it. It's not a franchise. It's not some big private equity firm. That means he controls the quality from the equipment to the people he hires. And his team, they're all professional, skilled, and sharp. Foley Mechanical is full service, heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers. And they're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty. They work across D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done right, call Foley Mechanical or go to FoleyMechanical.com. Tell Dan that I sent you. All right, 301-230-0980. The question is, would you have put him back in the game? That's what I think they should have done if he was just sore. And then if you want to speak to my point number 2, which is in part, I would have put him back into the game because he needs these reps. He needs a bit of a confidence boost right now. I'm not concerned about him. There are a lot of reasons, obviously, why he'd play and has played maybe a little bit hesitantly. And look, the other day they were not bubble wrapping him, but they weren't calling designed runs. They weren't calling option runs. They clearly told him be a little bit more protective. These are all good things. I'm not suggesting they're bad things, but that 1 3rd and 5 run where he scrambled and he came up 2 yards short, jumped out of bounds in front of Harrison Smith, he could have gotten that first down and would have gotten that first down without the governor that was placed on him from a protect yourself standpoint. I understand that. I think he needs to play some football. Let's start with Frank. Actually, real quickly, Max, what do you think? Max is putting calls.
I am putting calls into the system. Man, it's a tough situation to kind of be in because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because you're going to be hearing about it from whoever. So who do you think you can satiate or whose voice matters the least in the building? And I think that's the fans. So you don't want to be dealing with a pissed off Jaden Daniels who you're deciding to shut down for the rest of the season. He's got to play.
They're not going to do that.
No, they're not going to do that.
Do you think he should have gone back into the game on Sunday?
That's the thing, man. It was out of hand so bad, and they just kept getting their ass kicked. Honestly, if I'm Dan Quinn, I'd probably make the same call. Now, I understand my player would be furious at me, but with how this season has gone, and after I watched Zach Ertz's knee get folded the wrong direction, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting him back out there. I'm good.
301-230-0980. Frank, go ahead.
Morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
I think I'm going to agree here with your producer. I think the Vikings defense was playing for pride after the Seattle game, and Jaden just wasn't seeing it.
The Vikings defense played great in the Seattle game, by the way.
No, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
They got turnovers, but I think that just the entire defense, the entire team was playing for pride.
Right.
I don't think Jaden was seeing it. And to your second question, his confidence is definitely shaken this season. There's no doubt about it. And I'd say it's been looking a little off since game one. And I do place a little bit of that blame on Peters and the Terry contract situation. I think there was a lot of fault to go around there. I'm curious to get your take. I think that the emotional presence and Terry's done everything right on this team. I think that not rewarding him, not putting our best wide receiver in a position to practice with a young QB, that we've seen the tail effects of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the offseason in general was not a productive offseason. I still take the team's side in not paying Terry an elite level wide receiver contract at his age. But there's no doubt that it impacted the preparation for the season. I agree with that. I want to make sure that I don't get you guys confused about what I think. I think there's a slight, confidence issue, which is in general normal. I actually think he has looked like Jaden Daniels at various times this year. You only have to go back to the Charger game after the first two drives. I thought he played very well in the Chicago game. Obviously, the turnover at the end was brutal in the rain. But and the other day made a lot of good throws. And it should have been 7-7 had Cliff called a run or if Debo had caught the 4th and goal pass. Or, and let me just mention it now and get it out of the way. The play that I went back and really looked at over and over again was the 2nd and goal tackle eligible Brandon Coleman play. Jaden should have let it fly. Now, he would have let it go with Brandon Coleman, a tackle eligible, not having turned around yet. And I think on those, like if you go back and you watch the Trent, the Trent Scott play from the Cincinnati game, like it was so wide open, Coleman actually didn't fool everybody. And the defender was gaining ground. If Jaden, throws it anticipation-wise to a spot and Brandon Coleman is a good enough athlete to turn around with the ball already in the air, adjust and catch it, then he should have let it loose. He should have. Because what I said yesterday, Eric Wilson didn't get in his face at the outset. He got in the face once Jaden didn't let it go initially. And then I think it was a problem because not only was the throw going to be a problem because it was defended, but at that point, Brandon Coleman was then covered. Now, what are you doing running that play on 2nd and goal from the 2 after Chris Rodriguez is averaging 8 yards a carry, 7.95 yards per carry? Stupid. It's just not. And not only that, condensed field against that defense. I've got to give you something to play. I forgot to give this to you, Max, but I want you to go get Drew Brees from the setup for 2nd and goal at the 2. And I want you to pick up with Drew Brees saying what he thinks and expects Washington to do on 2nd and goal from the 2. It's a really good sound clip of Drew Brees after watching that very long drive. Washington is moving the football. They're converting third downs. They look good on that opening drive. 15 plays, 83 yards. They've taken 8 minutes plus off the clock. You've had your biggest connection, Jaden and Terry, all season long, I think. I don't know. Isn't this the first time they've played since the opener? A 28-yard pass. Maybe he hit Terry on a bigger pass than that in the opener. And you're down there, and it's 2nd and goal at the 2. Drew Brees basically, and you'll hear it, disagrees and disagreed ultimately with what Kingsbury called. So I did want to point out that play yesterday, I said, I'm not really sure if Jaden saw it because Eric Wilson was in his face too quickly. Yeah, the all-22 kind of reveals he should have let it go, I think. Let's go to Billy in Chantilly. Billy, do you think Jaden should have gone back into the game on Sunday? And then part 2 is, do you think there's a confidence issue? Do you think maybe his confidence has taken a slight hit?
This has nothing to do with confidence. This has everything to do with his offensive coordinator who continues to put him in bad situations. Of course, he should have gone in. If you watch his reaction after he took off the elbow brace on the bench, he did not look like the fiery competitor that we all know that he is. So this is a bad look for the entire organization from Adam Peters down.
Okay, so you do think he should have gone back in the game?
Of course he should have gone in. He's a professional football player.
Yeah.
The biggest issue right now that we have is that the question is, or do we trust Adam Peters with $80 million of salary cap room? And if you do, you're nuts. You're nuts.
What's the bigger issue for you? Just
failed.
Curious. Kingsbury or Peters?
Peters.
Okay. Yeah, because Kingsbury, we had, I think it was all last year, let Adam cook and let Kingsbury cook. That was last year. This is this year. Things change. Thank you, Billy and Chantilly. Let's go to Frank in Charlotte. Frank, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. How you doing? Yeah,
Good,
I think he should have. Hey, good. How you? Good. Happy holidays. But I think he should. I think he should have stayed out. And I think just personally, I think playing in Clifford's offense, I just don't think it would do him any good because there's no under center action to actually protect him, which will keep the offense balanced and the defense unbalanced. So, yes, I think his confidence has taken a hit. I'm not sure what happened from last year. He was dynamic last year. But I think his confidence has taken a hit because he's playing like his pre-draft scouting report that he did not play like last year. And if you read his pre-draft scouting report, that's how he's playing this year. So from game one on now, he struggled. He struggled all year.
There were so many pre-draft scouting reports, Frank. You know that. I don't know which part
can
of
I,
a bad piece.
Can I read two of them to you, please? Just two of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right. I got one here. It says here, processing time, processing under pressure. It states, eyes sometimes drop and processing slowed when under duress, although LSU scheme helped. And number two, anticipation, what you just talked about. It says here, it says lack consistent anticipatory throws, struggle to put deep balls on receivers in stride times. So he's playing a lot like that.
Yeah.
This year, which he did not last year.
A couple of things on that. We kind of dispelled all of the, pressure numbers because of the actual lost yardage. It was a lot of, sacks that were essentially 1 yard sacks, as he scrambled out of bounds and didn't get back to the line of scrimmage on a run play or a designed run. That gets actually called as a sack. Number two is the number of anticipatory throws was really focused on pre-scouting wise on middle of the field throws. They didn't have a lot of middle of the field opportunities. They were such a lethal offensive football team. They had the fewest third downs in college football by like 50. And then lastly, what was your last one? Because that was the deep ball.
I think one was
there were several scouting reports that said, and I agree with this, arguably the best deep ball thrower in college football. He and Penix Jr. both. And I think we saw a lot of that last year. But yeah, I mean, look, you can take, there's so many different scouting reports, and those that didn't like him for whatever reason, you can certainly find areas this year, but it's not everything this year. He's made anticipatory throws all year. He's processed very quickly this year. He's thrown good deep balls this year. Go back to the Luke McCaffrey throw at the end of the first half against the Chargers. So it's not been, it's been so hard anyway because he's played so little, but it's not like that's been the overwhelming case, Frank, this year. What
about navigating a dirty pocket? He has an issue with navigating a dirty pocket.
Did you see him the other day on that opening drive navigate a dirty pocket and turn what could have been a 3rd and 25 into a 3rd and 13?
No, not one play. I mean, consistently throughout the year.
Consistently, that's what he did all last season. Nothing's happened consistently this year.
Yeah, I'm talking about this year. This Jaden. We know what Jaden was last year. He was dynamic, but
nothing's been. There's nothing that you could say has been consistent other than he's gotten hurt consistently.
Yeah, that's true.
That's about the only thing you could say consistent, because go back and watch the Charger game after the first two drives and tell me he didn't throw with anticipation, that he didn't process quickly, that he didn't navigate a dirty pocket, that he didn't throw a deep ball well. Same with the Chicago game.
But he needs more film time, I think.
Yeah, I think he needs more reps, period, right now. He has essentially, if you add up all the time, including Sunday, he's played 6 full football games this year out of 13. Yeah. I know he's been a part of 7, but he left halfway through the Dallas game, and he had 4 drives in the Minnesota game, and then left, obviously, at the end of the Seattle game. If you add it up, it's essentially 6 football games out of 13. I don't want it to be 6 out of 17. Thank you, Frank. Yeah. Aaron in Georgia. Aaron, go ahead. The first part of the question is, I revisited Sunday, and I think he should have gone back into the game if he was just sore. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm with you with the reps. If he doesn't get the reps, he's not going to get any better. I think the more time we keep him on the sideline, I think the more it's going to stunt his growth, it's going to stunt his confidence, and it's going to stunt his ability. I think the saving grace for him is that I think the decision wasn't his based on his reaction. Obviously, throwing the helmet, being upset. And I can't wait for Hard Knocks tonight to see the difference or see what actually happened.
Is it tonight or tomorrow night?
It's Tuesday. So, yeah, it's tonight. I think it's every 9 p.m. on Tuesday. So I'd love to see that part, but I would just take a shot in the dark here and say I think Dan Quinn did it. Just because he was, as you know, your producer said, damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. He leaves him in and he gets injured, he gets criticized. He takes him out, he gets criticized. So in that regard, I think the game, him coming out wasn't necessarily his fault, but I think he should have stayed in. For the coming weeks, absolutely, he has to play. If you sit him on the bench, then you don't get better. You don't get the reps that are needed. And I would just simply add, everyone that is saying, oh, he's having all these issues, he's having problems processing, or he's struggling for whatever reason, I would look at him and say, what you're seeing with him, a lot of people were starting to say about Drake May or Caleb Williams last year when they had issues underneath their offenses. Now, this year, everybody's saying the reverse about them because they have new offensive coordinators and better offensive coordinators compared to last year, or better resources around them, which the Adam Peters conversation is a separate one where you could argue that the roster construction wasn't the greatest. I think when you look at Jaden this year, it's fair to give a real true perspective on the fact that he is playing against better defenses. They've had a whole season, 20-plus games now, to look at what he does well and what he doesn't do well. It's going to be the same thing with Drake May and with Caleb Williams next year. They're going to know what he likes to do in Ben Johnson and the New England system in both of those cases. And I think that you're going to see a certain level of regression in both of their games, the same way we saw with theirs. Not to mention, they may get hit with the injury bugs in both of those. But having said that, if you want him to play, I mean, if you sit him down, we need the reps. He needs the reps. And you're not going to get those reps by sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I agree with that. And let me just also say that I don't think any evaluation of his season this year, I've said this many times, is fair at all. I don't think it's fair to evaluate almost anything on this team this year because of the fact that they haven't had their best contributing players play. One thing you just said, I want to just make sure I revise a bit. They actually faced good defensive teams last year. What they didn't face last year were good offensive teams. The schedule benefited them last year because they played a lot of teams with, second and third string quarterbacks, or if it was a starter, it wasn't very good. But they played Philadelphia 3 times in their final 10 games. The best defensive team we've seen in recent NFL history. New Orleans was a good defensive team last year. Pittsburgh was a good defensive team last year. Baltimore was. Right.
Yeah, I think that they just, unfortunately, they hit challenges this year where, like you said, the defense got older. They never had team speed last year or this year on defense. And then this year they took injuries and people caught up to both schemes on both defense and offense. So I think it was just, like you said, it's going to be a challenge to evaluate it, to be fair.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. I mean, again, like even catching up on schemes. I mean, it's tough to, catch up on schemes when 24, I saw Tom Shad put this out this morning, that Zach Ertz is the 8th week 1 starter to land on injured reserve, and he's the 24th guy on the week 1 depth chart to miss a game due to injury, illness, suspension, etc. I guess Daron Payne would have been the suspension, right? I mean, last year, it wasn't about Jaden and the offense facing weak defensive teams. It was about our defense facing weak offensive teams. I mean, Philadelphia was the best defensive team in the league. We played them 3 times. New Orleans was good defensively. Pittsburgh was good. Baltimore was good. Cleveland was good defensively. They played good defensive teams last year. Tampa in the opener. Atlanta, by the end of the year, was a much better defensive team. It was the benefit of the last place schedule last year was getting to play Cleveland's quarterback situation, Arizona's quarterback situation, the Giants twice, Tennessee, New Orleans with Spencer Rattler and who started? Jake Haener? Didn't Jake Haener start the game? Not getting Jalen Hurts for an entire game in the game in December, etc. That was the benefit of the schedule. All right, I see everybody on hold. The question is, I have revised my thought yesterday that I was okay with Dan Quinn not putting Jaden back into the game. After hearing that he was just sore, I think he should have gone back into the game. And I definitely feel like he should play Sunday against the Giants. And I think he needs, as Quinn said, he needs to bank reps. And he needs to bank reps with, Terry and Sinnott, who's going to be playing more now that Ertz is out. There are going to be some opportunities to kind of, tee this thing up for next year with some of the young guys. And, I think he's not the 100% Superman confident dude that he was last year, which, it would be hard to have that level of confidence given how much he's been in and out of the lineup. Continue with your calls next. Steve writes, is this a bit? You're insane. Did you see the hit he took? There's no way Quinn was going to put him back into the game. Yeah, I get why Quinn didn't put him back into the game. I totally understand it. I'm just telling you, as I listened to Quinn yesterday describe the non-throwing left elbow as sore, not hurt, not injured. He could have gone back into the game, is what he said after the game on Sunday. I just think that it's 17-0 with 7 minutes to go in the game. 7 minutes to go, in the third quarter. Big difference. Is not the same as being down 31 with 9 minutes to go against Seattle. Like, especially after that bad play, I want him to go right back in there and fire away. With some of those under center snaps that we saw in the third quarter, a lot of them. Let's go to Big Bob. Big Bob in Rockville. Go ahead. Do you agree with me that he should have gone back into the game? And do you also agree with me or not that maybe he's, taken a bit of a confidence hit this year?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. Thank you, Matt, for getting me on.
Yep.
I say always play him. And here's the reason. He's never been on the field that much. Now, let's get back to that first drive to talk about the Scott play. That play only works if you're running the ball more. We all know, and I've said this for 3 years, Rodriguez is your man. Nichols is second up. If you run the ball, you can run that play after you've been near the goal line 4 times.
Well, they did run it on the opening drive. He ran it 5 times and averaged almost 8 yards a carry. They were running it.
Yes, Kevin, that's what I'm talking about. So at the goal line, that play goes to the tight end or the man in motion or the back out of the backfield, not a tackle. Because that play's only been rehearsed 20 times versus the other's been run thousands of times. So it really gets back to the coordinator, Kevin. He's not under center enough. He doesn't have 2 backs near the goal line. He doesn't have the 2 tight ends with a motion man near the goal line.
He had 3 tight ends and a tackle eligible in that play. Yeah,
but Kevin, that's the one play you run for the 4 times a year that they're unexpected.
Listen, I hated the
You're
call.
down to your offense,
I hated the call. The truth is it was open if Jaden fires the ball.
Sure.
But I don't like the call. I don't want him throwing to my, tackle who's got to basically turn with the ball in the air and adjust and catch it. I'm with you. I would have run the football. They had run it successfully all the way down the field.
Is that player going to be on the team next year, Kevin Scott?
Well, it wasn't Trent Scott. That was Brandon Coleman. If I said Trent Scott, I'm getting confused because Trent Scott caught the one against Cincinnati last year.
It should be a receiver. Okay?
Yeah.
The whole theory's wrong, Kevin. The offense is readable, predictable. You got to definitely put him under center more.
I don't know if that was a predictable play. That I would have liked a more predictable play, like hand the ball off to Rodriguez. That's what I would have preferred.
Absolutely, Kevin.
Yeah. Thanks, Big Bob. Appreciate it. Let's go to Steve in Richmond. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. How are you?
Good, Steve.
Hey, Kevin.
Steve, what's
Can
up?
you hear me?
I got you.
Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, good. Hey, whether to put him back in or not, I think you can just sit here and second guess. I mean, like the previous caller said a few calls back, if he'd have gone back in and gotten hurt, then Quinn would, he'd be.
What if he had gone back and led an 80-yard touchdown drive and it's a ball game with 3 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go in the third quarter at 17-7?
Yeah, no, I'm saying I agree with you. He should have gone back in. I mean, he should have gone back in if he was sore, like we found out yesterday.
Yeah.
My call was a little bit different on this in terms of Jaden long term. I wanted to get your thoughts on it and to see if you have any insight into the organization's thoughts on his long term health. I think this kid, he's awesome, right? He can throw the ball, he can run like crazy. He's got good instincts in terms of quarterback play. He needs to put on some. You talk about banking reps. This guy needs to get into the weight room and put some weight on. And I'm not to the detriment of his speed or anything else, relative to quarterback skills. But I mean, do you think that that's a concern that the organization has? And does Jaden have that himself? Because
I honestly don't know. I mean,
Okay.
remember,
Well,
people were excited because they saw, some of the photos of him looking, ripped and looking like he was stronger and maybe bigger. I thought that the differences were very minor, but I don't think that they had much of a concern with him coming out. He was never seriously injured in college. He had a lot of dings and, sprained ankle and whatever. And that's all he's had at the pro level. Knock on wood, that nothing serious happens, but he hasn't had a serious injury in the pros. I mean, he had a knee, but it wasn't a serious knee injury. He had a hamstring, that's what it was, and a non-throwing, elbow. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of other quarterbacks get hurt a lot too. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson come to mind, in terms of the really good ones. But we're at the beginning of his career, so there is justifiable concern that this is going to become a thing, and that would certainly derail a career if he's only playing 11, 9, 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when he dislocated his elbow, I mean, I haven't gone back and looked at it, but I'm thinking, I mean, just the way he fell on that, with putting his hand down, I don't know if he had a little more weight to him that maybe he wouldn't have dislocated. And the way he got knocked off his feet on that interception was like he must have flown 10 feet in the air.
He did fly through the air, no doubt.
I mean,
he was launched.
I know, and I mean, I love watching the guy. But when he starts running, I'm so excited. But I'm at the same token, I get frightened because, and that's just me. But I'm just saying, I think they need to try and really do a concerted.
You might be right. I'm not an expert there on how he should mold his body to, not lose speed, but whatever. But you are right, man. He was launched on that block on the interception return. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Let's go to Kai in DC. Kai, go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. I'll disagree with you about putting them back in the game because we were already down and the offense was not looking like it was going to get better. And I wanted to also say that I don't know if Cliff watches film or not, but there's ways to beat the blitz and lining up a shotgun every play. And I don't know if you've seen the Sam Darnold game last week, how they blitzed, the week before, how they blitzed him every play, and he didn't look good. Spin the shotgun and they're blitzing. I don't think that works. I don't think Cliff changes up his offense.
I don't think they had a good plan for the protection the other day. I would agree with that. Now there are examples of blocking it up and him getting and making some good throws. The under center 4th and 1 play to Ertz is, I think, an all-out pressure, and they handled that one, and he got it out quickly, anticipatory, etc. to Ertz. That was an impressive play overall. But yeah, I think there was too much quick pressure. There was too much unblocked pressure. There was also some confusion with thinking there was pressure when there wasn't. Brian Flores is really good at it. I mean, he completely shut down Seattle a week ago. You can look at the final score and say 26-0. It was because Minnesota turned the ball over 5 times in the game, 4 interceptions, including a pick 6. So
the offense could not move the ball that game.
Couldn't move the ball against that offense. That Seattle. Najigba had 2 catches in the game. 2.
Yep, 2 catches. Couldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
And my last thing I wanted to say is that if you just take a look, I want to say also, JD has to play, but I really don't want him to play because I don't know if we're getting a new offensive coordinator next year, but we have to do something different with the offense. And just going on to my point, and if you take a look at all the quarterbacks that were drafted when JD5 was drafted, all of them are in a pro-style offense. And Caleb was horrible last year in whatever offense they were running in Chicago. Ben Johnson came, and you seen the game last week. They were running the ball. And then
let me say, Michael Penix was primarily in the pistol the entire time this year before he got hurt. And Bo Nix, I think, is in the shotgun. Yeah.
No, Sean Payton, they're in the shotgun, but they're pro-style offense mostly. But Most of them
Okay,
are flourishing right now.
we're getting into we're getting into semantics. Pro style, under center versus shotgun. I'm just telling you of the actual, quarterbacks that were drafted. Not all of them are under center, and what you would call what I thought you were referring to as pro style. I mean, Penix Jr. was barely under center in Atlanta. I got a break. Those of you on hold, we'll do this for another segment. Stay there. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. Yeah, the under center versus, shotgun pistol debate, it's totally worthwhile. We talked about it a little bit last week. And there's certainly been a resurgence here in recent years, especially this year, of the better teams being more or leading the way in under center snaps. Through 12 weeks, because I don't have the updated numbers, the Rams were 1 in under center snaps. The Bears were 2, the 49ers 3, the Lions 4, Seattle 5, Buffalo 6, New England 7, Jacksonville 8, Houston 9, Dallas 10, Carolina 11. I mean, the top 11 teams in the highest percentage of under center snaps, all had winning records. Whereas the bottom teams, Washington, Atlanta, Cincinnati, by the way, now Kansas City has a losing record. Philadelphia, the Saints, Titans, Dolphins, Jets, Giants, all are more shotgun / pistol teams or not under center at the same level. I will remind you of two things. One, last year's Final Four, Kansas City, Buffalo, Washington, Philadelphia, 3 of the Final Four, and the final 2 were among the least amount of under center snapped teams in the league. And Philadelphia still is in that position. Kansas City still in that position. Pittsburgh and Indy are in that position this year, although Indy now, they're bringing in Phillip Rivers for a workout. Oh my God, my guy might be back in the NFL at 44 years old. That would be wild. Am I wrong? Was Taylor Heineke on that roster at some point or not? Indy.
I don't
Is he
think
in the
so.
league?
He's not in the league. He's a free agent right now.
Okay.
But I think
why don't they sign him?
That's what I said. I mean, listen, it's better than 44-year-old Phil Rivers.
I don't know if it is, but the point is that Phillip Rivers at 44 years old, he hasn't played football since 2020, 2021. He's eligible for the Hall of Fame now, which means he's been out for 5 years. So 2020 was his last season. Indy, yeah. I mean, I love the people that say injuries don't matter or injuries aren't an excuse. And I mean, the dude was playing basically on a broken leg the last 3 weeks, the quarterback. Now he's out and their season's going to tank. Explain that one to me. Anyway, our guy G from the shop is on the line. Do you agree with my reversal of thought, which is now knowing that Jaden was just sore, I think he should have stayed in the game?
No, I ain't been agreeing with nothing you've been saying the last couple weeks. Seeing most teams don't play stars in the preseason because there's no bottom line and no reason to do it. It doesn't.
Yeah, but this isn't the preseason.
Let me finish because you've been stepping on my Jordans these last couple calls, and I'm telling you,
what year are the Jordans?
It does not result in a Super Bowl. In our season, there's no way you cut it. It don't result in a Super Bowl. And everybody calling up here competent to like boys club development football. If he had showed me last year that he couldn't process the whole field, that he couldn't spread the football around, that he's a world-class athlete, and he also has bounced back from knick-knack injuries and real deal injuries, and he's tough competitor that don't never want to come out the game when he is banged up. If he hadn't showed me that, I would be saying, yeah, development. If he was like Anthony Richardson out Indianapolis, who really needs development, if he was Mitchell Trubisky, only starting 13 games in college, man, this dude played 50-plus games in college. You know what I'm saying? In the way Cliff Kingsbury has called the offense this year, that's like it's been equivalent to the daycare that you send your kids to, and they always send them home with bruises. You know what I'm saying?
That's terrible. That's terrible.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I've always been on.
I can't believe. Now, can I speak since it's my show? Or are you going to step on my Magic Johnson Converse? Are you going to do that?
I'm throwing them Converse in the trash. Go ahead.
Man, those were the first. Those were the first for me. The Magic Converse high tops, leather. What was I going to say? Oh, first of all, the preseason's a terrible, terrible analogy. Do you know why? No one else is playing that usually plays. These are real games with real players playing in the games. He should play. Everybody else plays. This would be, and not only that, this is out of character for you. Mr. Badass competitor. We're getting after him. And I get you're stepping on me. You're stepping on my sneakers. I get what you said about I know what he is. I don't need to see him, to prove to me that he can process, that he can throw with anticipation, that he's an athlete, that he's a warrior, that he's clutch, all those things. I get that. But right now, after this season, I don't want 2026 to be a second season. And that's where we are right now. 2026 being year 2. I want it to be at least year 2.5.
No, and that's why you said that's unlike me, competitive. You're right, I'm competitive, but I'm also got wherewithal to know there ain't no way we going to the Super Bowl. So why just throw him back out there because Kevin Sheehan and the Junkies are saying he needs development. After 8 losses in a row and 5 of them get blown out, man, no.
Well, who else do you want to sit? Who else do you want to sit the rest of the way?
No, listen, everything needs evaluation. But no, we brought up Jordans, Kevin. Jordans, I had a pair of British Knights and I had a pair of Deodors. Remember them Deodor tennis jumps? But at the same time, I babied and took care of them Jordans more than I took care of them Deodors. And just because the grass needs to be cut, I'm not going to put on my Jordans to cut them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, Sheehan.
What?
And I don't agree with you about the confidence, man, because if you win a Heisman Trophy and you win the Rookie of the Year, yeah, you are having a little down year and everything ain't went well. But no, I don't see his confidence being wavered, man, because Youngin looks always, he's never frazzled. Even when stuff ain't going good, he always got that same demeanor. And that's why I like Mariota for the backup, because Mariota went through a lot of ups and downs through his career, and he's got Jaden aware of these ups and downs. And like I told you 2 weeks ago, Matt Stafford in his first 2 years only played 13 of them 32 games, man, and played 16 games in a row, 8 years in a row. So no, it's just one of these things, man.
I'm with you on that. I think that he could end up playing 17 for the next 5 years in a row. It's a concern. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but I don't think it's a guarantee by any stretch. But you got opportunities here to get reps, to get out of this funk. I disagree with you on the confidence thing a little bit. I think even the highest level of confidence people occasionally have adversity, and it's not that he's unsure, but I think he's chomping at the bit to go out and say, remember this. And if you're his coach and he's coming to you and saying, I'm a football player, I need this, I'm in my second year, and I got something to prove the rest of the way, and we're going to end this season on a high note, I think you're putting him in there. No matter what wherewithal you have.
No, but the thing is, you said no matter what type of guy you are, when you're a top tier, yeah, you might get a little weary, but you ain't going to lose confidence. You're going to keep shooting.
No doubt. I want to see him keep shooting. I think we saw some shooting on Sunday.
No, if I call Kevin Sheehan and have a bad call, which rarely happens, but if I do have a bad call, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to show up the next game and with that same confidence, and I'm going to kill it and throw for 450.
Well, you know me. Well, I mean, just because I missed 6 in a row, I'm firing number 7 and number 8. Even if I'm not open. But let me just say this to you. This was one of your better calls, but not every call is great. But most of them are good. I'll handle the grading.
Hey, when you at the top of your game, you got to worry about them pundits. You are like Peter King to me right now.
I don't think that's a compliment.
No, it's not.
Okay, good. I was just confirming. All right, I'm out. See you. Actually, I'm in. You're out. Let's go to John in Oklahoma. G's one of my all-time favorites. John, go ahead.
Hey, G's right. You don't put him back in there. He's been playing football. I know you don't want to hear that, but he's right. You don't put him back in there. There's nothing to play for. Plus, what are we on? Our 6-string, 7-string receivers. We got a couple of them off the streets a couple of weeks ago. Who's he going to throw the ball?
No, he's got the starting receivers back now. I think I'd have a different view if Robbie Chosen was still out there. I would, but he doesn't. He's got Terry. He's got Noah Brown. He's got Deebo Samuel. He's got the whole offense out there with him.
Up until this week, Kevin. Up until this week, and start of the season.
Yeah, now he does.
Well, I know, but this week he has. But the start of the season, he had nobody to throw the ball to. Good timing, Kevin. And he took care of the football. He looked indecisive, but he was taking care of the football. Is what he's done. There was no separation. I mean, you look at it. There was no separation, so he held the football. But you don't put him in there. Like I say, people holler, "Oh, he needs reps." Did he look like he needed reps last year? Like the guy said before, he played in the Southeast Conference, all them games. He was ready. You get him some receivers.
Look, I'm not concerned about his future at all. Not even a little bit. But I want to see him play right now. I want to see him get out of this. I want to see him play and remain healthy and have the confidence that he's not going to get hurt heading into next year.
Right. Okay, Kevin.
Yeah.
What's he playing for right now? What's he playing? Because you want to see him. Some fans want to see him play. I mean, the season's a bust. What I don't like about this, just losing, man. I mean, we just keep driving this franchise under 500.
I think you're always playing for something when you're in that spot. Right. I think we can say he's not playing for anything because they're out of playoff contention, but I think all those guys are playing for something. But yeah, no, you're entitled to your opinion. Thanks, John. Let's go to Ian. Ian's on hold. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would absolutely play him. I would have put him back in, and he should play as much as he can, because when you talk about what he's playing for, his own confidence, the team's confidence, the fans' confidence, and the future, because right now the trajectory is potentially a 3-14 season, a lot of transition, I think, and you heard Ben say this yesterday, is that you can't lose 12 straight games and then just say, it's only injuries, we're rolling everyone back. There's going to be a lot of changes. So if you want to stem that and keep some stability, he's got to show something, because the roster's going to be overturned. You already know you're getting a new defensive coordinator. You're really playing for the future stability, his confidence. And yes, of course, I think his confidence is shaken. You know, if you look at the 3 games, quote unquote, that he's been healthy, or the team's been healthy, New York, Green Bay, and then say this one on offense, they haven't looked good in any of them. So you got to play him every play you can to see where this is going, because right now there is nothing to look forward to for next season.
Yeah, I mean, he also, against a very good team record-wise, 2 of them played very well. So there's that too. Yeah, I don't think that there's an issue with him trying to instill confidence in his coaches, the organization, his teammates. That's not even in the realm of thought. There's no doubt that there are some fans that think that this was like, oh my God, last year was a fluke. He's really not any good. We've got RG, number 4, RG3,
yeah, well,
number 2. Hold on.
Okay.
But I don't think that they should do it because of the way the fans think or media thinks. I think he needs, as a second-year player, he needs more reps. Look, one of the things we talked about during the offseason is there really wasn't an obvious flaw. I'm not even sure this year you can point to an obvious flaw. I think it's very hard to evaluate his season, because some of the things he did very well last year, he did very well in the Chargers game. He did very well in the Bears game. He did a couple of those things on Sunday against Minnesota. So it's not like he just lost it overnight. But I just think playing is something that these guys do, they need to do, and that the more reps you get in any profession you're in are helpful, and the least number of reps you get are hurtful. And I think in a season like this, and I'll go back to what I said, and it sounds like you agree at least a little bit, I don't think his confidence has been shaken. I don't think people like that ever have their confidence shaken. I think he's certainly chomping at the bit to show, hey man, I can do what I did last year. And there's that edge that goes with recognizing I haven't done it enough this year. And I'd like to see him get that back, before they go to an off season. That's what I'd like to see. Anything else from Ian? Did he fall off? Really?
I looked at the phone and he was gone.
Okay. He's very busy. Ian is very busy, but he makes time during his very busy schedule to reach out to us. Joe in Ellicott City. Joe, go ahead.
I really needed him to come back in the game, and I think he should have came back in the game, because I had him in my fantasy league, and I lost by 10. And I have him and Terry. That's not my point. Do you remember? I know you remember the old Charlie Hitch play Joe Gibbs used to run when his quarterbacks were in trouble and getting blitzed every down.
Yeah.
It's like he would calm his guy, just throw that simple Charlie Hitch out pattern to the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't Cliff do something like that? Like, get this guy.
One of them
It seems
to
like they're running a blitz at him every play now. It's like they've totally changed these teams. It seems like they know. It's like he looks flustered on every play because they're blitzing him. Some freaking free blitzer is coming on every play now.
Well, actually, I mean, they blitz, and that's what they do. They're the highest blitz rate team in the league. You know, they're not doing it because it's him. It's because
when he plays.
It's what they do. I actually would like to look at the blitz percentage. I haven't looked at it. I'm going to guess that it was less than their season average. They showed it on almost every play, but they ended up rushing 4 on a lot more plays than I thought they did when I went back and watched some of his plays in particular. But yeah, you know, they threw the out pattern to Terry at the end of the first half to get that drive started, which ultimately failed. But I'm with you. Like last Sunday night, I was very complimentary of the game plan that Cliff had against a very good defense and one of the best pass rushing defenses in the NFL. Now, not exotic pass rush like Flores, but just flat out Benito's one of the absolute best. Cooper's great. Yeah. They're really good at what they do. And he recognized that. And what did they do? They ran the ball, and every throw through the first quarter and a half or first half was quick game. Ball's out, no chance to get to Mariota because the ball's out. I would have loved to have seen a lot more of that on Sunday. And they did run the ball on the opening drive. And then they didn't get the ball back, obviously, until very late in the second quarter. But they did run the football, but the quick game, I don't think was there enough. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they were playing press coverage. I'd have to go back and look at that. But it didn't seem like they had nearly the plan against Minnesota that they had for Denver. But somebody mentioned to me yesterday, I didn't hear Logan say it. I love Logan's breakdowns. But Logan basically said before the game, this is going to be much more difficult in terms of scheming up against Minnesota's defense than it was Denver's defense. And everybody in the league says that, which is why I thought it was a great test to bring him back. But I don't think they were prepared for it. I just don't know whose fault it was. What else you got?
Really tired of hearing about how skinny he is. He's not the skinniest quarterback that's ever played in the league. Jesus, the Carolina kid, how
he's 5'9"
He's got to be smaller than Jaden, but I know he's had a couple of injuries here and there.
Much shorter.
Like nobody talks about how scared they are for his life when he goes out there. I mean, they got to play him. He's got to play.
Yeah. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it. All right. If you're there, we'll take one break. I see you, Joe, Jonesy, Mark, Paulie. We'll wrap it up with you guys. The question being, now knowing that he was just kind of sore, I think he should have gone back into the game. Look, 7 minutes to go in the game is different than 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. 17-0 in the third quarter is different than 38-7 at the end of the fourth quarter. I would have liked to have seen him gone back in and tried to bounce back off of what was the worst play of the game for him, his last one. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. John Keim's going to join us at 12 on the show today. And next hour, we'll go around the NFL. We'll talk about some of the games that were played on Sunday that we didn't get to, including one of the most incredible gambling endings ever. And for me to say that, because I've been around a lot of them, and you remember your losses much more than you remember your wins. This was a win times 2 for me. But if you don't know about the end of the Raiders-Broncos game on Sunday, we'll tell you about it next hour. And what Drew Brees said in advance of the second and goal tackle-eligible play that failed on Washington's opening drive, I think you want to hear what Drew Brees said. Real quickly, he's much better than he was when he first started. He's good. I think have we gotten him 2 weeks in a row? No, Denver, not the Denver Sunday night game.
Yeah.
I heard him on a game last week, and I thought he was really good. Let's go to Jonesy in D.C. Jonesy, thanks for holding. Go ahead. I think after hearing Quinn say that the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, was pretty much just sore, upon further review, I think I would have put him back in the game. What about you?
If he said he could go, yeah, I would have put him back in.
Well, he definitely said he could go.
That's right. Because he got to get the reps, Kev. To be honest and tell you the truth, I can't have my quarterback going into the next season less confident in himself. And I don't want him guessing if he's good enough or not. He showed you last year that he was great. And I still believe it's there. But for some reason, to me, I feel like Kingsbury is going to get him killed for the way he's calling games. I mean, you got the run that's working, and you don't stick with it. You're getting 6 to 9 yards per carry, and you don't stick with it. I can't wrap my brain around what he's doing and why he's doing. He doesn't do what he's been successful at, and that's what's pretty much really costing us games as well. It's a lot to it, other than just the defense. But yeah, I would, but I don't know. Kingsbury, it's probably a lean towards strong no. I just like to see what he would look like with another offensive coordinator that will stick with the run, especially when he's successful. That's all I have to say, my good friend.
Yeah, I hear you. Certainly on Sunday, you could make the case that they got away from something that was working. Again, I want to emphasize, because I know they would say this. They would say, yeah, do you know that we only had 3 possessions in the first half, and one of them was a 2-minute possession, and the other one was the only 3 and out that we had? And I'd say, yeah, I do, but what happened on 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, and 4th and goal? And by the way, the 2-minute possession, and then they did come out and run the football to start the second half with some heavy personnel. So there's always like the emotion of what we think we're seeing in real time, and then the reality. The reality is they didn't really have the football offensively. 3 possessions in a half is unbelievable. 7 for a game is what they had, is just insane. But the first drive, they ran the ball 5 times, 39 yards as part of their 15-play drive before the last 3. So they ran it 5 times on 12 plays. 5 times on 12 plays. Now, maybe they'll point to an RPO or 2 that could have been a run. But then on the 3 and out, 1 run, and then on the 6-play drive at the end of the first half when they were at midfield, I know it's the 2-minute, but they had 2 minutes left. They could have potentially run the football. Yeah, I mean, the more I delve into it, it's like if you're sitting down with Kingsbury, he's like, the only thing he'd push back on is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and goal. Because he's going to look at the second drive and he's going to say, well, the second drive, it's 1st and 10, they throw it. Could have been an RPO. I got to go back and look at it. 2nd and 10, Rodriguez for 5 yards. It's 3rd and 5. You're not going to probably run the football on 3rd and 5. So you understand a throw there on 3rd and 5. That's a throwing down in the NFL. Yeah. Always a lot of I think the one thing about Sunday's game offensively is they just didn't have the ball. Part of that was on them, but they did, have long drives on 2 of the 4 with Jaden in the game, but it doesn't matter if you don't score. Paulie, go ahead.
Hell to the W, big guy. How you doing, man?
What's up?
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I'm not gonna say he should have went back in or he shouldn't have went back in. You know, I think we've talked about this, you know, him playing or not playing. But my observation of it all is Dan Quinn don't trust Cliff Kingsbury. That's why he ain't put him back in there. I mean, you know, this is not the first. This is not like this happened the first. This has been happening all year, or Jaden's whole career. And you know, they was already taking a risk about playing him, anyways. So I mean, that was one of the quickest hooks in the history of an injury hook. If you're saying that he was just sore and you didn't put him back in, that's telling you that, you know, you can't say, well, I don't trust the offensive line because we're kind of banged up front. You're healthy there. You know, we got rookie receivers in there. Well, no, you was healthy there. Well, we got a practice squad running back out there. He didn't know the blocking assignment. No. You're healthy there. So this is him not trusting Cliff Kingsbury.
Okay, so let's go through this. Let's go through this because you've.
Hold on. Sheehan.
No. You hold on. You hold on.
Don't step on my
So
weapon.
I want to stick with this. No, I already stepped on it. So you raised an interesting question because I actually thought about this. I wonder if he was just hooking him. So the possibilities, because you've already laid out the non-possibilities very well, not the offensive line, not the receivers in the game, not the backs in the game. So there are 3 possibilities. Cliff is one. Right. You think it's Cliff. He doesn't trust Cliff. 2 is he doesn't think Jaden's got it today. 3 is what I think it was, and that is he was having a flashback to the Seattle game when he didn't pull him, when he was in the game unnecessarily and got injured. And he was looking at this game going, it's 17-0. My defense can't get off the field. We can't really, win this football game. What's the point? And I will look absolutely fireable almost if he goes back into this game and gets hurt. I'm pulling him to protect him, me, because I'm squeamish and I'm going to err on the side of being overly cautionary. I think that's it. Well, but you think it's Cliff.
It has to be that one. No. Yeah, I think it's Cliff. But if you're talking about Dan, maybe it has to be that one because you can't never doubt your starting quarterback saying that, well, he doesn't have it today. I mean, that's crazy, man. Because the great ones can go 1 for 15 and then hit 15 in a row and bring you back and win. And I think you got to view Jaden as that type of guy. But
we saw it last year a couple times.
But if Dan Quinn was thinking like that, down 17-0 in the third quarter, that's almost a 5 offense too. Because now you coach is scared, and you can't coach scared. I think he didn't trust Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, he did nothing to nullify that defense. All 4 of their possessions, or how many possessions they had. So to me, hey, listen, man. I got some friends, you know what I mean, and I love them to death, but I wouldn't leave them at home with my girl.
Yeah, but see, by your logic, though, then he should take away Kingsbury's responsibilities right now like he did with Joe Witt Jr.
No. I'm not saying he should take away his responsibilities, or maybe he should, but what I'm saying is, it's like what I told you about Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for Bill Callahan. That wasn't a Kevin O'Connell offense. That was a Bill Callahan offense.
Right.
And Dan Quinn needs to make this offense his offensive philosophy.
Yeah.
And not the.
Does he have an offensive philosophy?
Kingsbury.
Bill Callahan was an offensive line and offensive coach.
Hey, listen, man, a football coach is a football coach, especially when you talk the head coach. Is Jim Harbaugh an offensive coach or a defensive coach? He was a special team coach. But I guarantee he knows what he wants his philosophy of his offense to be with his quarterback. So I think there's starting to be, a break in trust between Kingsbury and Dan Quinn.
if you're right, then we will see a change at the end of this season, if not before the end of the season. By the way, just the idea that he doesn't trust Cliff. He was asked about that, remember, last week, about whether or not he and Cliff have had conversations about adjusting to Jaden coming back. And he was very coy in his answer, and I thought that actually spoke kind of loudly that he had talked to him. And the bottom line is that in the game on Sunday, not one designed run called. Again, only 4 drives, but not one designed run. I don't think a legitimate zone read was called. And he was very protective as a scrambler of himself. So there was some influence from Quinn on Sunday.
Again, exactly. And it shouldn't have had to be. That's that's like you telling my friend, bro, stay away from my woman. I shouldn't have to tell my friend that. He shouldn't have to tell his offensive coordinator that. And I'm going to leave on this note, man. Hey, Bird's weapons was better than Magic weapons. The black and white joints.
Gotcha. The trust with Cliff. I mean, he did kind of in that answer last week. He didn't want to give the answer, but I think there was definitely a conversation. And look, I think the analogy is extreme that Paulie just gave us. But I'll tell you what, the very first game still sticks with me. At Tampa Bay, week 1, 2024. And he's got Jaden Daniels down 37-13 in the game, running zone reads at the goal line in 2 minutes, getting absolutely blown up a couple of times. He scored. He ended up scoring on one of them, but after he'd taken a couple of big hits. That is, somebody's got to help Cliff through that part. Like, this is the NFL. We don't have another 3 guys on scholarship that can do it if our first guy can't do it. So I do think that some of that is a bit of a missing piece with Cliff. Mark in Largo is going to finish up this conversation about should he have gone back into the game on Sunday against Minnesota if he was just sore. Let's see if Mark can handle this one. Go ahead.
I believe he should have. And Kevin, let me say something that I think no one, not even you, has understood about why Jaden is so passionate about playing. Jaden is passionate about playing because I think Jaden, in his mind, feels that it started with him with the fumble. He took responsibility. If he doesn't make that fumble, maybe this team is in a different scenario than where they are. Maybe they're 4-2. Maybe I don't know if they beat Dallas. They damn sure don't beat Kansas City, but they may have maybe he's not getting injured as much. Maybe it's just different. It's just a totally different dynamic. And Chicago's not looking that good. So in a sense for him, he has to play Sunday. It's going to be snowy. He's got to be prepared. This is a team he's undefeated against in the Giants. You beat the Giants. You could do something. Here's the thing, Kevin, that no one's talking about here, man. If I'm a Commanders fan, no, I would have loved to see them make it to the Super Bowl. That is the number one thing. But if you could knock out the Dallas Cowboys and knock out the Philadelphia Eagles, or at least sweep them, sweep the Eagles. If you could sweep the Eagles from what happened last year, I think everybody will be okay. They won't be happy, but they'll be okay. But here's the reason why I think they have a damn good chance of beating Dallas. Because for the first time on a holiday on a Thursday, Dallas has to travel. Dallas has to play not only a 4 o'clock game, they got to play a 1 o'clock game on Christmas Day.
He might be right about that. I bet Dallas has never played a holiday Thursday game on the road.
It's a holiday Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they got to travel. And that's a game that I think if I'm watching, they can win
They'll
that
be
game.
wearing their blues, too, because Washington's in the Super Bowl whites.
Yes. Look, the reality situation is this, man. I want this team to win, and I love Jaden Daniels. And unlike some people who call here that want to rip Jaden and say that what happened last year was a fluke, oh, I'm not talking about anybody. Oh, Dr. Sabah, yeah, her. Oh, and I got more to say about her on the Christmas show. I'm not going to go into it.
You know what? Honestly,
my big brother.
The stuff I get from her, it's not even worth addressing. Yeah, she can't stand it.
I totally agree with you on that, Kevin.
Yeah.
I don't even know why she watches the team, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But in a sense, look, we want this team to win.
And Kevin, here's what I was going to say, and I said this to the call today. Look, and I'll go on this note. Everybody who had great records last year is struggling this year. Everyone. Kansas City's probably not going to make the playoffs. Buffalo is a game away from not making the playoffs.
They're going to make it.
Philadelphia is trying not to make the playoffs. Detroit is out of the playoffs right now. I mean, and Washington's not going to make it.
It's going to be an
Minnesota's
insane playoff field. You're right. There's a chance that we're going to have the most teams we've ever had in the postseason that weren't in it the year before. But the Rams are going to be in it. They're really good.
But they weren't a top team last year.
They got close
I don't
to
know
Philly.
if Tampa Bay's going to be there.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay. Well, I think eventually Philadelphia may figure it out, but they got to get Jalen Carter back because they're a totally different team without Jalen Carter. Totally different team without Jalen Carter.
How did you kick off this call? What was the first thing you said about? Because I didn't write it down because you have so many things that you get to. You bounce around a lot. What was your opening?
What are you talking about with Well, I said that I felt that. Look, Jaden is wearing that game. The game they lost to the Bears, he's wearing it. And I don't think people seem to understand.
Thank you.
He's wearing
you
that
know what?
so much.
You know what? Mark may have hit on something because we all know, and I had heard some of this as well. He was really feeling like it was on him, that Bears game.
It was.
And that Dallas game, he came out and they, remember there were a bunch of penalties and drops and all kinds of stuff happening, but they were still in it. Remember, it was 20-15. They had cut the lead. They couldn't get off the field.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt he felt the sting of 4-2 was right there if he just can make the handoff without botching the fumble in the rain. But let me just say this. As much as I would like to win this year, I want to win more next year. Okay? So that goes into the thinking. But I will tell you this. It'd be hard not to be a little bit happy if they eliminated Dallas on Christmas Day.
Oh my God!
I would get a kick out of that.
And Kevin,
what?
And Kevin, remember this. What I just said to you about everybody else, not just Commanders, is a story because we're not the story of the year. The Ravens may not make the playoffs either.
Well,
So
injuries have derailed a lot of seasons this year, including Kansas City's right now for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So it's not just us. It's not just us.
Yeah, no, I know,
But, hey,
I know, but they haven't lost 5 times by more than 21 points. Let's not forget that. It's been really non-competitive for us in too many games. I got to go. Hard break. Back with a couple of what do you gots, including right now the front runner for the Rookie of the Year in the association.
They force her to give it away. Back in the hands of Braun. And it's thrown away. It's Maryland basketball. 12.1 seconds left. Both teams out of timeouts. Going down to the wire once more. Backdoor cut. Sailor Puffenberger with the finish.
No timeouts by Minnesota, so they cannot advance.
7 seconds left for Battle. Tries to throw it up ahead. The ball dribbles away out of bounds. Puffenberger on the other side of half court. 2.3 seconds to go. Braun is going to heave quickly. That's off target. Hart gets it up. And Maryland, showing its resilience on the road, gets its first Big Ten victory.
Unbelievable.
So why am I playing a Maryland women's basketball highlight? The other day, playing against Minnesota at the Barn, they call it, up in Minneapolis. Great home court environment for their men's basketball team. I don't know what it is for their women's basketball team. By the way, the Lady Terps are seventh ranked in the country. They are 11-0. In double overtime, with 44 seconds to go in the game, they were down by 9. And they scored 10 straight without fouling and forcing missed free throws. They scored 10 straight in 44 seconds to win the game against Minnesota, 100-99 in double overtime. It was all steals and turnovers. I mean, let me make sure that you guys heard that. It's not like they were fouling and the other team was missing free throws. They got steals and forced turnovers and scored 10 straight points. And by the way, they did it in 34 seconds because when they took the lead, there were still 10 seconds left in the game. So down 9, 99-90. They scored 10 straight in 34 seconds to take a 100-99 lead, and they didn't foul and force missed free throws once. It was all steals and Minnesota turnovers. I mean, first of all, down 9 with 44 seconds left, what are the chances? And down 9, with 44 seconds to go, the chances are even slimmer if you don't foul and put them at the free throw line. Good win for the Terps, 11-0, their first win in the Big Ten. It was their first game in the Big Ten. They're really good again. They're always good under Brenda. Brenda Fries has just built up an unbelievable women's basketball program at Maryland. They are really good. The other what do you got I have for you also involves the Terps, my Terps. Last night, Derek Queen became the first rookie in NBA history to record a triple-double in a game at the center position. Derek Queen right now is second to Cooper Flagg currently in Rookie of the Year odds, but he's having a better season. Last night, Derek Queen for the Pelicans in a loss. By the way, the Pelicans are 3-22. They're not a very good team. But in a loss to San Antonio, 135-132, Derek Queen, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. By the way, I'll throw in 4 block shots. He is so good. I mean, you could see it last year at the beginning when he first started playing for Maryland. He really was a totally unique player. Unbelievable hands, unbelievable feet, unbelievable feel, great passer. I think even though he doesn't shoot threes, I think he's got a good enough stroke that eventually that'll be a part of his game. I mean, not everybody believes that. I'm just telling you, I think it's a good enough stroke that eventually he'll be able to stretch the floor. The ironic thing in watching him is he doesn't need to be a stretch the floor guy because they are literally unable to guard him in the mid-range. He's so crafty. He's such a good passer. He's got great vision and then just incredible ability to score, kind of Jokic style. He had really modeled his game after Jokic. Jokic now has a lot of guys growing up trying to play like him, which is an unathletic version of basketball, but a dominant form of basketball. Good for Derek Queen. He's having one hell of a rookie season for a bad team. a bad team. By the way, just speaking of the NBA in general, the Oklahoma City Thunder have won 15 in a row. They are 23-1. This is going to be barring injuries, because they are a reality in sports, barring injuries, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they've got 4 first-round picks, I think, the next 2 years, something like that. They are going to be one of the all-time dynasties in the NBA. They won it last year. Nobody's close to as good as them this year. I don't see how, if they have their players, they could lose a best of 7. They might win as many. They'll win as many games as they want to win this year. Could they go break the record and win 70, 79 games? Sure, they could. 73. What's the Golden State's got the record, right? 73. Is that it? I forget. Oklahoma City is just absurd. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the smallest NBA market, right? Oklahoma City's got to be a smaller market than Salt Lake or Memphis, I would think. I think it is. John Keim next. John Kimes covered the team longer than anybody on the beat. Been around for a while. Ohio State Buckeye guy. He's more excited about that right now than he is the rest of our miserable football team's season here in town. At John_Kime on X on Twitter. He joins us right now on the show. So, real quickly, actually, is Indiana better than Ohio State? Are we going to see a rematch of that in the title game? What happens there? Do we have John? I can't hear John. I got you now.
Okay, I'm here.
I was asking you, are we going to see a rematch of Indiana, Ohio State when we get to the national championship game?
Well, first of all, you said I'm more excited about them. I'm more PO'd about the red zone play calling than I am anything else right now. So happy is not the word I'm going to use. I'm like, they've only lost one game. It's okay. But the standards are pretty high. I think you very well could. I think it's funny because like Ohio State has A&M or Miami in that first game, and they had a hell of a road last year to go, and they climbed that, right? And it was terrific. But, Miami and Texas A&M are two teams that people thought a month or so ago could make a run. So, but that's how it should be, right? It should be tough. But I don't know. I think I hope, I'm going to say this. I hope you do. I hope you do see a rematch. I thought it was a good game, and it didn't necessarily hurt either team. And, if they let me take over the red zone play calling, W.
Yeah, what I was going to say, 4th and 1, 13-10. Is Ryan Day typically that conservative?
No, I think what happened was because clearly they went for it on the previous one.
Yeah.
And the sneak, and
Sain's knee was down.
I'm a big fan of Julian Sain. The knee was down, and I thought that when I first saw it. But he's a small, skinny quarterback. Those are tougher ones to sneak. They have a running quarterback you could put in there with a little bit bulky. You're going to sneak. I understand, you kind of tip things off, but they do have a guy who's more built for that, right? So, but the field goal, at that point, I think because they had come away with some issues in the red zone, just get the points at that point. But that kicker, listen, if you're an Ohio State fan and they're lining up for a 20-yard field goal to win the national title, you are really nervous with that guy. So, because he's just against Michigan last year, he missed 2 field goals, in low 40s, right? He's just not a clutch kicker. When they beat Notre Dame last year, he had that kick to seal it. You better believe that there were a lot of, fingers crossed, breath being held, et cetera. But
I didn't anticipate.
I don't want to complain about a team that has one loss by 3 points.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate doing this with you, but I'm actually I've really been deep into the Notre Dame situation, the AD situation, and I know you follow it closely too because you're a huge Buckeyes fan, and even though you're in the day-to-day on the beat and we're both consumed with our football team here, I think this is incredible. I think the attention and what we will get on December 19th and December 20th for the second straight year, home fields in the first round, and then the potential matchups, a Texas A&M, Ohio State, Miami, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Georgia, potentially an Alabama, Indiana, or Oklahoma. I love this, but I'm just curious as to whether or not you followed it closely enough over the last few days. Do you have an opinion, A, on Notre Dame, Miami, who should have been in, and then B, Notre Dame's reaction to it?
Well, so coming off this stuff, it's really hard for me to focus on this too much.
Okay.
So it's really on the periphery of it, right? I'm not studying it. I'm not, I look at the pairings and I see what they have, and then I've got to devote attention elsewhere.
That's fine.
There are a couple of things with Notre Dame, Miami. The hard part is the bouncing back and forth of where they're ranked. I also know that if you just go by head-to-head and you keep somebody ahead, but the other team loses twice, it's hard to do. If let's say Notre Dame, Miami, let's say Miami was 8 and Notre Dame was 9, and then Miami loses a couple times after that win, it's kind of and the other team doesn't. When do you ever drop? You know what I mean? But I think but if they're close, then they beat them. So but it's a wacky. It's kind of wacky. And would I say, like, does Notre Dame belong in there? Yes. Does Miami belong in there? Yes. Does I'm going to piss off some people, but does JMU and Tulane belong in? No. Come on.
You actually just hit on something, and we'll get to the football team, our football team, here in a moment. But a lot of people understand why it's Miami over Notre Dame. They had a head-to-head,
Right.
and every other metric is essentially identical.
Right.
The head-to-head was Labor.
Yep.
It was Labor Day weekend, but the big problem they have is just the way these selection shows. I'm sorry, the ranking shows. Basically didn't consider the head-to-head before, but you hit on something that's very true. One of the reasons they didn't have to consider the head-to-head for a while is because Miami lost games in the middle of the season. It had been since literally the first weekend in September that Notre Dame had lost. They lost to Texas A&M in week 2 after losing to Miami in week 1. Meantime, Miami was floundering around midseason. They lost a terrible game on a Friday night to Louisville. They lost, in early November, late October at SMU. And so they had dropped significantly in the rankings. Nobody was talking about at that point Notre Dame versus Miami. Notre Dame and Miami became a thing in the last 2 weeks. Miami 2 weeks ago looked like an absolute no-chancer for the most part.
Right.
And so I think the committee, look, it wasn't the best. The guy that ran it wasn't the best communicator. That's for sure. Right. And it seems like they never have very good communicators in these spots. But they weren't comparing the two in the head-to-head game in August because Miami was back at 15, 16, 18 until very much at the end. And I do think last week's show should have had, a clear-cut answer if BYU lost without both of those teams playing. But anyway,
there were some people who predicted, like, watch, if BYU loses, Miami's going to jump up and they're just looking for a way to get them side by side. Then it becomes about head-to-head. So if you're 11 and 12, well, this team beat that team. But it's funny because back in the day, you do these, like, when I covered like high school sports, you do these rankings, right? And it's like, well, how can you put this team ahead of this team because they beat them? Well, if you just went by that, like, it's really hard to do that. And it's still a little bit different, like for high school basketball versus college football. But like, there was always a challenge, like, well, how far do you drop this team if they beat this team, but yet they lost these games over here to teams that were lesser? Yeah. And it's a hell of a thing. But I agree, like, it certainly felt like, they changed the narrative a little bit. But I would say this, like, to me, they both belong in. So,
I know. Look,
and the other thing is, like I said, Tulane and JMU, like, why is Alabama in?
Yeah, Alabama had 3 losses, and one of them was to Florida State. But I think they're in because the team
they beat Georgia.
They beat Georgia. Not only did they beat them, they beat them on the road. And so, that was as impressive a win as anybody. And their metrics actually were stronger than Notre Dame and Miami's. And they didn't want to penalize them for playing as the 1 seed in the SEC title game, because if they got knocked down and knocked out, I mean, teams were going to start opting out of these conference championship games in the future.
And that's true. And that's all fair. And then Notre Dame's reaction, whatever.
It's not a whatever for me. Yeah. I'm actually kind of a closet Notre Dame guy and have been my entire life, just because I grew up Sunday mornings listening to Lindsey Nelson call let's move to further action in the third quarter.
Yeah.
To me, it's a real sour grapes, childish response. And blaming it on the ACC and blaming it on ESPN.
Well, that's bad. I agree with that. Yeah.
It's
that's
like,
all bad.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm I don't know. To me, it's like you got players that probably want to play one more game. By the way, it's a revenue-generating opportunity. And if people haven't seen this, next year the rules change. If Notre Dame finishes in the top 12, they're guaranteed a spot. I mean, the kowtowing to Notre Dame is absurd. I mean, this is supposed to be level ground competitiveness when you get to the playoff portion. We understand it's not with NIL and salary cap and the whole thing. But when you get to the actual, these are the 12 teams, and you're going to tell me that Notre Dame finishes in the top 12, they're guaranteed, but no one else is? How about join a conference then? And the ACC, And the ACC's got to figure out their tiebreakers because Miami should have been in that ACC title game against Virginia, and that would have solved everything, and JMU wouldn't be in.
And I think like with Notre Dame, what I get, like, and like I said, I haven't spent more than 5 minutes thinking about this. But what I did see the excuses or the reasoning and the finger pointing. And so like that's the part that just like, okay, big time sour grapes. And I've seen other people say like, okay, they should make a rule that if you decline this, you're not eligible for this next year. And I know it also probably a big reason is a lot of players would have opted out because of the NFL.
I get that. But we see that in every bowl situation.
See that in every game. And so like you go, but then it gives, for me, if I'm a coach, like it's another month. Okay, let's say that's the case. All right, well, you still have next year. And there are going to be a lot of guys that get an extra month of practice and get to go play a game and you get some evaluation of them. And so, like I think there's value in that. Like, yes, but I don't believe. Here's the other thing, like, you can't tell me that, first of all, there's no way it's unanimous by the players because there are players in that roster who have said, listen, man, this is my shot to go play because this guy's not going to be there. Now I get a chance to go play more and show more what I can do. You know what I mean? Like, so like there's opportunities you're taking away from some kids on that roster.
There's actually there's a bigger opportunity, John. Every single college football coach will tell you that when you accept a bowl bid, no matter how minimal the bowl is, and no matter how much money you make or don't make, because, there's huge costs in going to these bowl games too. Sure. So some of these lesser bowl games that don't generate or don't pay out as much as the others, sometimes it's almost a break even. But what every coach will tell you is that the extra month you get with your young players, it's like a second spring football, or it's the first of the two spring football periods because you get to practice for a month and you can't practice if you're not in a bowl game.
Right. And that's what I was saying earlier. You get to spend another month with this, practicing, and there is a lot of value in that. And again, then you start to, because like, again, let's say there's 8 or 10 guys who are going to opt out. I don't know how many it would be for Notre Dame, but let's say there's a handful of guys who are going to opt out. You're going to get a chance to see other guys in a different spot than maybe what they've been in previously this year. So you learn a little bit more about them going into next year. And and for some of these players, to be honest, it could be a chance for them to maybe make some more money, go to the portal, if you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of value for a lot of people. So that's why when they say like the team right away, they wanted, I call BS on that because there are a lot. It's just like when guys in the NFL get hurt. And people say, there's nothing to play for. For these guys, there is. It's a third preseason game. There's a lot for these guys to play for because it determines their future. So, but yes, I agree.
All right, let's talk about the team. You said something that wasn't on my list, but I'm going to start with it, red zone play calling. So do you think that there is – two-part question. First, what was the level of input that Dan Quinn had with Cliff Kingsbury prior to Sunday as it related to adjusting to Jaden being back? And then, two, do you think there's any frustration growing with Quinn and Kingsbury, with Kingsbury's, look, he was great against Denver, right? And then a week later, we're complaining about play calling. But just give me what you think the dynamic between the two of them is right now. And what was it last week in preparation for Minnesota?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, the play calling was pretty good up until that point. So, like,
yes,
I agree. You can't dismiss. And there are other times where I felt it was pretty good too. So you can't dismiss that. I think the issue in that red zone area was like you ran the ball pretty well getting down there. And I get like, sometimes you're going to try something different off of that. That first play is a result of the runs. You're trying to get that, Sneak Coleman out there. And it's very, you're talking to people like outside the team yesterday. It's very possible that maybe Coleman got a little bit excited on that one and maybe left a little bit early because Jaden's not ready to throw when he's open, they're not yet ready to throw. So, but like if you handle it right, probably a touchdown, but it wasn't. So I think like that's the one where you say, okay, could you have run the ball at least one attempt down there? And yeah, of course. I also wonder, like, they like to run with Jaden down there. Is that a result of him not wanting to do that? Like, so I think, so I think that's part of it as well, because he is a weapon for them down there and has been, was last year and was earlier this year. So that's also part of it. Quinn's involvement, I mean, I think it definitely sounded like there were a lot of meetings about like, hey, what do you need to do to make sure and like to help protect him? But, as you know, you can't just, You never put bubble wrap on anybody. You just can't. But there are things you can say, okay, we'll call this less a little bit. Maybe, you didn't see any design runs for him. Right. So
no, none. I don't even think there was a legitimate zone read potential for him to keep.
Yeah, there wasn't. And so that's a result of okay, now some games maybe you don't do that as much because of how the defense is playing you, but usually there's one or two, right? So you didn't see that. So I think that's part of it. But the dynamic, I do think that I know they've wanted to run the ball, and I know that against Denver, that's a really good defense, and I think there was a little bit of surprise about the success they had because of how good that defense is, but it was good. And it's why they were able to stay in that game and make it a game. So
a lot of quick game too in the first half. That was it, passing wise.
But and here's the problem with the quick game is a big part of obviously what they want to do. A quick game and RPOs. The RPOs are a big deal too, and you really aren't going to see that. That's a hard thing against that defense. But it's felt like when you watch that game that Minnesota had the answers to the test, and they're if you're watching, okay, here comes the pressure. What do they want to do? What do they like to do in these situations? They had that stuff covered by and large. It was impressive what they did. Guys dropping to, getting into slant lanes and just you'd have 6 guys rushing. One's going to stop and just kind of hold back because they know that you're going. Terry's on the left, probably a slant. I'm going to get in the passing lane. You know what I mean? And so there were a handful of that. I think that was that's something you have to look at and say, why was that the case? Is it a matter of they just were sharp that day, or was it becoming a little bit more predictable than you'd like in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to you since Sunday, and I haven't heard your overall take of the game. I want to go back to it, and
it was bad.
We've already kind of, yeah, I know we've already covered kind of the Cliff play calling. I'll start with this, and I just want to know because you've been around, as long as I have. I think this is without question the worst defensive team I've ever seen in franchise history.
I was looking at some of the stuff yesterday. I'm like, because how there's that recency bias, and so you wonder, am I just thinking that because of this? Then you look at I'm looking at bad teams that I've covered here. This team was more competitive, and so why is that? Because the defense was better. Now, a couple of years ago, they were 32nd overall, but I don't remember it being this is just bad. I mean, and so I would be hard pressed to find something worse because you don't what is it that they do well?
Nothing. They don't stop the run well. They don't rush the passer well. They don't defend the pass well, and they don't turn teams over.
Right.
They don't do one thing defensively in the big categories well. In fact, they're terrible at all of those things.
Yeah, and so and why is that? And I don't think I know the simplistic answer is this game. It's not just about the scheme, man, because the scheme is used by a lot of Ds, and there are play calls that are used by a lot of Ds, and they're better. Why? So, I think they've cut down on some of the mental mistakes. But again, I go back to, answers to the test. And you watch the Vikings offense the other day, and there were definitely certain situations okay, it's certainly based on how J.J. McCarthy dropped back, got rid of the ball. It's you know what you're getting. Here's the answer. And so that was evident. And, I don't think when you talk to coaches of other teams, they're not exactly enamored with the talent on that D. So there's a lot of issues.
That's fine. But they're getting the least out of the least, at this point.
Yeah. And I'm not blaming it. Just let me say this. And I always say this, but it's true. When you're this bad, it's an organizational failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how do they fix it? Let's focus on defense. How do they fix it?
First of all, the first thing, are you talking about this year or the future?
No, I'm talking. Forget this year. I mean, it's unfixable. But what about for in this offseason? Give me the top 3 priorities defensively.
Well, first of all, you got to figure out what you want to be on defense and who is going to lead them. That's number one. And then so you don't go anywhere until you get that resolved.
So what do you think the possibilities of that are? Because I don't think it should be Quinn and Quinn's defense and Quinn calling the defense. I don't think it should be. That's my personal view. What's yours? How do they solve the defensive scheme and the associated coordinator that takes over?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to make this change and then go back. You know what I mean? So it certainly seems like they would go. I know Dan Quinn said that he would be open to it. I don't know if after this year that he's going to feel the same way. I just don't know. I know that he has wanted to delegate more. That was a big deal for him after Atlanta. Right. So I don't know if that's going to really change. And going into last week, I mean, part of it was like, well, do you feel more comfortable with that because of, some stuff you have on the offensive side that you don't have to, focus as much on that as maybe you did. You have more of what your foundation established, et cetera. But I think if there was a dramatic turnaround, then I could think you could say like, okay, that makes sense. But if you're not going to see that, then I'd like just stick to what you have and figure it out with whatever you want to do with the staff, and then, and style of play, like what is it that you want to be? And he's always, part of the problem right now is they want to be a press man team, but they don't really have corners that like they're better on the outside with these corners at playing zone. But then if you're going to give a lot of cushion in that zone, it really makes it tough. So, they're kind of trying to get by at this point with what they have. But you've got to figure that out first, is who is and what is it that you want to be. And then you need to find, you need an impact guy in that front. Period.
I mean, you need 5 new starters minimum on defense, right? Like who's the key? Yeah. Who's the keeper? Who are the keepers? I mean, Kinlaw and Luvu, I'll start there because they're both under contract and they're, I think you need Kinlaw's size. You need Luvu. Who else stays?
Solid, yeah. So I think then it's like, what do you want to do with Duran? Now his salary, his cap number next year, is too much. But but you can keep him at a lesser number because nobody in the market, like if you get rid of him, nobody's going to pay him that. Right. It's just not. So can you work something out with him? And like they've talked to other teams, like the guys that they worry about are those two. It's Kinlaw and Payne. They're not worried about anybody else. So like those are an issue. Now you also have Dorrance Armstrong will be back. He can help. But he's coming off an ACL, and so what's it going to look like for him? Like Trey Amos certainly, and I think then I think it's like after that, we'll see. I think everything's up for grabs there, but I think the other thing that would help Luvu, who has not had the pass rushing success that they had hoped or anybody had hoped, but he's playing edge out of necessity. That's not like as a pass rusher. He's got to be in a situation where he can blitz a little bit more, right? And but I think they're going to have to. I'm curious too about like Jordan McGee, what his future like he shows enough. It's like okay, kind of like that. Like let's see what he can do more. But in a full-time role, we don't know. But like I think he's at least a guy that I like. Could you see him? Yeah, I could. But you definitely need an impact guy up at somewhere in that front seven. You just do. And then like look at Minnesota's defense. Like they do they have this one great player? I don't think so. But they have a bunch of good players, and then what Flores does with the aggressiveness, it covers up some sins in the back end. Like they're not playing with these great corners, but you wouldn't notice that Sunday because
but they got some pressure. Playmakers in their front seven, no doubt.
They have but there's no like, is there a dominant guy? But they have enough. They have good players, and you have a lot of good players. You can do stuff up front. So, I almost dropped a different word on that, but you can do stuff up front if you have different players and like that, enough good players, and that's what they have. And like, but it's such a, I've always liked watching his defenses because of how aggressive they are, and sometimes that's going to bite you in the butt. But when it works, man, and when you get a lead, pretty nice to watch.
Yeah, it's really hard when you get a lead. All right, we're talking to John Keim. Let's get to Jaden. So I I felt Quinn in the post game as it relates to Jaden. You know, he had the Seattle experience. I understand erring on the side of caution, even though he was cleared to come back in and he could have returned. And then, you know, he answered your question at the beginning yesterday with, you know, kind of describing it as sore. My personal view is if it's just sore, I would have wanted him back in the game. A. B. I definitely want him playing against the Giants.
Right.
And I'm wondering what you think and what you think personally, and then what you think will happen.
So no, I'm with you on that. Like going back in the game, like the other day, like I kind of get it, you know, and I also wonder how much that Seattle game weighs on them.
I think it was a big time weigh on them.
Right. So and it's the opposite, and not, you know, and like, I mean, that drive started with 12.5 minutes left in the game. I remember talking to one coach like from another team. It was like, nobody's pulling their guy at that point. It had just happened to the last 5 minutes. That was an issue. But I get that's, you know, but whatever anybody thinks of that, if you thought he should have been pulled, that's fine. I'm not going to argue that.
Are you talking about the Seattle game? I think he either should have been pulled or he should have been handing the ball off down 31.
Well,
because that's different than 17-0 the other day midway through the third quarter.
Right. And I think you're right. I agree with you on both counts. But in this one, you know, I think I do wonder if like, hey, like this happened. I'm just going to, and I agree with Quinn. Like at that point, it's 17-0. It felt like it was 30-0 at that point.
It did. It did.
So I think like that weighed on them, I'm guessing. And I think the Seattle game again would play into that. But if it's just about sore, and you've talked about him, you've talked a lot about wanting to get him these reps and getting him back out there, then if it's just sore, I know he's going to want to play. And you can, if there's no long-term concerns, then there you go. So I think if you're healthy, you should play. Do I think he will? I could see, you know, and this is just a guess. I am not reporting anything on this, but could I see them just saying, well, you know what, it was sore. We had him we had him get an MRI and do all that, the tests, just to make sure. But then because of that, like sit him out a week and then get him back for the last 3. I could see that, but I don't know what's going to happen at this point. But I'm with you. And I think, like I asked Quinn after the game, how much do you still want to see him? It's still important for him to play. And he's like, it's important for him to get the reps. And I would agree. Like the only way he's going to grow as a quarterback and continue to grow as a quarterback, I still think he's going to be a very good one. It's just about durability. But, you know, the only way you do that is by being out there and, you know, and learning how to play a certain way. And I mean, he wasn't reckless the other day, I didn't think.
No. In fact, he had a borderline governor on him. I mean, the 3rd and 5 in which he jumped out of bounds after a 3-yard gain, Harrison Smith was coming up. You go back and watch that play. I think prior to this, we have had a bit of a you know, the reins on him. I think he goes for it and probably gets the first down.
I agree.
Puts himself at risk.
Yeah. I agree with that. And because that's what he's done. And, you know, there are a couple times I'm like, well, could you have done this here? Now it's easy to sit there and pause the all 22 and say, oh, could you have done this? Like I'm sitting there, you know what I mean? Like, so in the heat of the moment, you make your decision, but it's one where like, okay, could you have, you know, there's a 3rd and 2 where he starts to scramble and now he picks it up because he dives forward, but you got Terry, is he open or is he not? What's your line of vision? It's not even a second guess. It's more of I wonder, could he have done this? And then what does he see to maybe prevent him from doing this? But like those are little things, but it wasn't, you know, he still gets first down, doesn't get hit, he dives, he gets on the ground and he's good to go. So, you know, and like he got it, whatever it is, whether it's re-injured, aggravated, whatever it was, it happens on the interception. And he's chasing after the guy to make a tackle. That's like, if he's not chasing after and make the tackle, then people are going to, you know, there's going to say something about it. But he does what a competitor does, you know, and I'm sure that after that moment, your elbow is sore, you're PO'd because you threw a pick, you're frustrated because you're an intense competitor who wants to be better, and the day's not going well for you guys. So, like, there's probably all those emotions swirling inside him that, you know, so then, so it adds up. But I think I didn't feel like he was reckless, and early on,
I didn't either. I thought, if anything, he was conservative. But real quickly on the Van Ginkel thing, I think it appears he checked to that bubble screen. Do you agree with that?
Trying to remember.
Okay, so you haven't spent a lot of time on it. I
I
thought that was.
I spent.
I actually didn't think he played that poorly, but I thought that was by far and away the worst play.
Yeah, and there was there were times where there were plays that Minnesota just took away because there's a screen to Debo on one side. It's like it's set up well, and they knew it. Like they rushed they rushed 3 and dropped 4 over to Debo, and they took stuff away, and that's why I say there's clearly a book on what they're going to do, and Minnesota studied that book pretty well. So
okay, do you think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be back next year? I'm going to end with that.
Yeah, probably. I right now I don't see why he wouldn't. I don't know that if you look at another job, I don't know that job is out there yet, and I just don't know that. I don't think I would say this. I've never gotten the sense that he's in a rush to go. I think if there's a really good situation that he wants to go to, that it would be that's what it would be. But I don't know. Would Tennessee be that job? I would. There's only one of 32, but I think for your second coaching job, that's not the one I'd want. Now the question would be what if New York calls? But is New York going to call after this season? Right? I just don't know. And I know Jaden likes working with them. So I don't. So I could see. Yes, I could see him coming back. But again, that's not for sure. But it is. I'm going to take a look at that. I'm looking at that play right now just to see if he does check out of that. He does go up to the line and just call.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think it was a check.
Yeah. Because it definitely was. Because then, Terry then shifts out after that. So it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It was that, and but they did a good job again getting in those passing lanes. And all game.
Van Ginkel's the best at it, and they should have known that.
He did that here a couple years ago with Miami.
With Miami, yep, he did it the other in 23.
Another bad game. That dude's
another bad ending of a season.
He's an exclamation point for bad games here.
Well, I mean, look, this isn't about us. It's about all of us because it's the fans and everybody that's listening too.
Yeah.
We've been here, done this before, and 2023 was the last time where they finished the season with 9 straight losses or whatever it was, 8 straight losses, and other than the Greg Zuerlein kick, other than Jacoby Brissett getting into the game and nearly knocking us, further down in the draft, every game was a complete one-sided beatdown. And that Miami game was one of them. All right. I'll talk to you. Thanks for doing this.
Fun times, man. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. John Keim, everybody. When we come back, truly one of the most amazing betting endings to a game in recent NFL history. No exaggeration. That's next.
delay of game, defense, number 22. And Carlson's kick is good with no time left.
That was the end of the Denver Raiders game. That field goal by Daniel Carlson at the gun made the final score Denver 24, Vegas 17. So that field goal was to lose by 7 points and for the final score total to be 41. This was one of the craziest endings from a betting standpoint in an NFL game in recent memory, and it really got everybody started with conspiracy theory, game is fixed conversation on social media. So let me tell you what happened here. First of all, as a reminder, last week's smell test featured the Raiders plus 7.5 and the over in the Denver Raiders game. That number was 40. I had that game on along with the Green Bay Chicago game. And that game was the Raider Denver game was 24-7 with 3 minutes to go. My chances of winning either one of those two wagers, Raiders plus 7.5 or over 40, were less than 1%. Maybe the over was a little bit higher in terms of probability. And those that had Denver, the public bettor that had Denver and all the public bettors that had the under in that game because their last game was 10-7, they already, put the check mark next to it on their little piece of paper with all of their bets. They counted their money. But what happened over the final 2 minutes and 18 seconds was nuts. First of all, Kenny Pickett in for Geno Smith throws a touchdown pass to make it 24-14 with 2 minutes and 17 seconds left in the game. Now, at 24-14, the Broncos are still covering. If you've got the Raiders like I do, they're not covering. And if you've got the under, you're still in good shape. It's at 38 points. The total was 40. If you've got the over, you're not in good shape. Although because the Raiders scored, I then had some hope because it's like, well, they're going to line up and kick an onside kick. Maybe they'll be one of the 3,000 teams that have tried it in the last 7 years, and they'll actually recover the onside kick. Well, they did try the onside kick. They did not recover the onside kick. And Denver took over with just over 2 minutes to go, up 24-14. The Raiders had all 3 timeouts left, and they used them. And before a 4th down and 4 at the Raider 28-yard line, Sean Payton decided to go for it. Now, for me, I was like, kick the field goal, make it 27-14 so the game would go over, and I would at least get one of the 2 wagers. But he went for it. Now, if he gets it, it's game over. 24-14 is the final score. They didn't get it. And with 58 seconds left, the Raiders had the ball back with Kenny Pickett at the helm at their own 28-yard line. And now you got a shot. But what needed to happen for the Raiders to cover and for the game to go over, or if you had Denver, for you not to win that bet, or if you had the under for it not to stay under, was unbelievable and very suspicious to most. Do I think that they fixed this game? I do not. And Pete Carroll explained his strategy, and I'm going to play that for you here shortly. But what happened was the Raiders, with 20 seconds to go, 16 seconds to go, from their own 41, threw a ball down the field that Tyler Lockett caught inbounds 26 yards to the Denver 33-yard line, but the Raiders had no timeouts left. But one of the Denver Bronco defenders laid on Tyler Lockett, didn't let him get up right away, and got flagged, which stopped the clock with 5 seconds to go in the game, advanced the ball 5 yards to the Denver 28-yard line. Now, the call was a little bit suspicious. You don't usually see that in a 10-point game. It wasn't like he was laying on top of him for a long time, but they flagged him for delay of game. Now, what will Pete Carroll do? Well, in most situations, down 10, 5 seconds to go, this is the last play of the game, they're probably just going to throw a ball into the end zone. I'm watching this, and when I saw Daniel Carlson trot out onto the field, I'm like, oh, my God. He is going to kick the field goal to cover the number and send it over the total. And sure enough, that's what they did. He kicked it. You heard the call. Final score as the clock ticked to zeros, Denver 24, Raiders 17. Raiders cover, and the game goes over the total. People thought the refs were in on it with the flagged delay of game penalty. They thought that Pete Carroll should be investigated because he's kicking a field goal on the last play of the game. Keep in mind that if there were 10 seconds left or even 8 seconds left, 7 seconds left, kicking the field goal is the right strategy because it's the only chance you have. Because then at least with 2 seconds left after the field goal goes through, you can kick an onside kick, maybe recover it with 1 second to go and get a Hail Mary attempt. So it's really the only chance you have is to kick the field goal and hope there's time left and get the ball back. But with 5 seconds to go, it's a 46-yard field goal. The odds are there isn't going to be any time left at your final play. So it's an all-time bad beat if you had Denver or the under. It's an all-time great win if you, like I did, had the Raiders as a smell test pick and the over as a smell test pick, not to mention my own personal wagers on the game. Pete Carroll was asked about it after the game, about why he kicked the field goal there. Here's what he said.
Well, if you notice, I was battling with the official making a plea for, because we saw 8 seconds, 7, which would have given us a chance to kick the field goal, kick an onside kick, and maybe have a second left. And then when it went down to 5 or went down to 3 or whatever they did, and then they put it back to 5 or whatever, then I knew it was going to look stupid. Like you couldn't figure out why we were doing it. So, but one, it was 8. I was trying to get it to 10. I was talking 10, with the guy trying to get it back up. And I thought I'd had a chance to plea it and plead it, and they might give me a shot. And so that was just competing is all it was. But fans couldn't understand. Like you're asking the question, but there was a real clear thought what we were trying to get down there, just to take it down to the very last click.
That is a totally reasonable explanation. And it's true. If he could have gotten a couple more seconds put onto the clock, the play there is to absolutely kick the field goal. And then with 5 seconds to go, I guess he's already got the field goal team out there hoping to get the clock back to 7, 8 seconds. So it's not the final play of the game. But it turns out with 5 seconds to go, the chances are, I guess he could kick it in 4 seconds from 46 yards out. But then you're going to need a penalty at the end of the onside kick. You're going to have to recover the onside kick and need some sort of penalty to extend the game. So anyway, maybe the most talked about gambling story in weeks was that one, and the smell test, another winning weekend, 5-2. But I was staring 2-5 in the face. Let's go to Baltimore for one of the games of the day between the Steelers and the Ravens.
Here you
Take
go.
the outcut right away. They're taking
7 seconds. They're running after him, and they get to him. They end the game with a sack. Highsmith ends it.
So this followed the drive before, in which I'm sure you've seen the highlight of the touchdown pass that wasn't to Isaiah Likely. Catch, 1 step, 2 step, but the 3rd step, which was, I guess, the football move step, never got down, and they called it an incomplete pass. That would have been a touchdown to give Baltimore either a 28-27 lead, they would have gone for 2, or a 30-27 lead with about 2:30 left in the game. I don't know why that wasn't a touchdown. I thought why is it that if he caught it and the ball crossed the goal line and broke the plane and he got 2 feet down, it would be a score, but in the end zone, it's not. It's hard to figure that one out. I will tell you this. The Steelers really played well, and Baltimore, like I've been saying for weeks, is just not a good football team, and Lamar's not right. Even in this game, he rushed it more and had a rushing touchdown. The story of the game really was Aaron Rodgers, because this looked like a couple of the games he played earlier in the year, where he was really super sharp, like against the Bengals or against Cleveland or a couple of the other games. He was 23 of 34 for 284 yards, a touchdown, no sacks, no picks. Outstanding. Also rushed for a touchdown. And so the Steelers now have the advantage in that division at a 7-6 record, and in good shape, really, with Baltimore at home to end the season. There were some other games. We'll talk about one or two of them when we come back. I do want to mention that Window Nation has extended their year-end sale. Window Nation right now is offering 50% off everything plus 0% interest for 5 years. So if you finance the purchase, no interest until the year 2030. Window Nation's the place to go if you need new windows. I promise you, you won't go wrong. It starts with a free in-home estimate after you call them at 866-90-NATION or you go to windownation.com. In that free estimate process, which will take an hour or less, you'll get a quote. They're not going to pressure you to make a decision. You can shop it all you want. You'll also actually find out which windows in your home need to be replaced. That's helpful for many people. Window Nation is a 5-star customer service company. How about 45,000 5-star reviews? They've also been recently voted the #1 window installation company by Forbes magazine in the United States. 50% off everything and 0% interest for 5 years. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
On the fake. Williams looking, throwing, it is intercepted! Keyshawn Nixon and the Packers will win it!
It's really the other game from Sunday, because we did talk a little bit about Houston, Kansas City yesterday. Houston is an absolute wrecking crew defensively, but Green Bay is pretty good too. I'll tell you one thing about Green Bay's 28-21 win over Chicago is Caleb did throw that interception at the end when they were trying to either, win the game or force overtime. You've got to have a little bit more belief in Chicago after their last 2 games, the win over Philadelphia on Black Friday and the way they battled at Lambeau on Sunday. The Bears can run the football, and their boot game and their play action game with Caleb, along with his athleticism as a quarterback, is good. And they take the ball away on defense. That's something they've been doing. They play the Browns this week before finishing with Packers, 49ers, Lions. I think Chicago's much better than I thought they were. And I think Caleb Williams is getting better. I think the one thing with Caleb Williams still is he's not a drop back quarterback. You can see he still struggles with accuracy, with processing accuracy in particular. But when you get him into an athletic game, either as a thrower on the edge or as a runner, man, he can really motor and he can make plays. I love Swift and Monangai, their running backs. Really, Luther Burden was one of my favorites in the draft. He and Loveland and the group they have there, they didn't play with Roma Dunze in this particular game. DJ Moore, Chicago's got some weapons. Man, the NFC is upside down as is the AFC. I mean, the teams that are going to be potentially in the playoffs this year, and here comes Carolina tied with Tampa and 2 games left with them in the NFC South. All right, we're done for the day. Back tomorrow. Chris is next.